right, we're back on SportsBit. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy, the weekend preview edition, big game breakdown. One game in the association homecoming in Chicago, Knicks and the Bulls. And then we'll hit the NFL hard, the huge Sunday night matchup, the Broncos and the Raiders, Steelers and the Ravens, and the Eagles and the Giants, and play of the day, money time before we get out of here. Market moves in a second in the NFL. Bad beats, bad bets. Bad for the books, Teddy. How about this? The big three were terrific with the calves, and they still can't get the money. What did we tell you yesterday about NBA betting the line moves, against the line moves?
Quote, on Wednesday's Deep Dive, we did NBA Betting 101. I believe the quote was, you can make a living just from betting against the line moves due to NBA injuries. So what happened? The Cavs bet from -7 all the way up to -11. Horford out for Boston, Crowder out for Boston. Second night of back-to-backs. Well, guess what? The 13th guy off the bench is still a friggin' NBA player and capable of stepping up given the right circumstances. Love hits the three. The Cavs are up 10, 40 seconds left. I mean, Cleveland led by, 15 or 20 most of the way in that game. Tightened up in the fourth. Love hits the three. The Cavs go up 10. Shumpert hit a couple of free throws. But Isaiah Thomas with the 2 free throws in the last possible possession for the Celtics. And then turnover, a Celtics layup. Boston gets the money. Cavs win only by 6 with some end game shenanigan. Tough beat if you had Cleveland, even though they were probably the right side.
What will you lay with the Cavs to win the East right now? Would you lay $4?
No.
Oh, man. It's they're going to be toying with teams. Although Brad Stevens, again, he does it again. No Horford. They're right there. He's a hell of a coach and was a shootout in Cleveland.
Well, the issue with the Cavs is obviously health. All it takes is one guy to get hurt.
Yeah.
And there's a whole then they shouldn't be -$4 against anybody.
The bad bets game, Iowa State team rather, only with one win. They hung in there at home on national TV. Oklahoma bet up to 21.
Yeah, Sooners from 19.5 up to 21. Plenty of Oklahoma money out there. And, of course, this is where the mainstream world, in their world out there, Iowa State stinks, right? They're 1-8. They're 0-6 in the Big 12. They're terrible. In our world, Iowa State's freaking awesome, man. 6-1 against the spread last 7. They're in a cash cow for my pocket. They've been a cash cow for your pocket, and they cashed another winning bet last night. A team, all they do is compete. They're not winning these games. They're hanging tough. That's all we ask for when they're plus 21-point dogs. Bad
bets continues with the Pacers. Larry Bird might want to reconsider that McMillan hire.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's been a disaster early on for Indiana. I mean, Pacers, certainly from a point spread perspective, but straight up as well. They went from -2 to -3. Lots of Indiana money. They were square money. They were sharp money on the Pacers last night. They're 0-5 against the spread in regulation. They did cover as chalk on opening night against the winless Dallas Mavericks. But Indiana, they're not getting it on the defensive end right now. And the Bucks all of a sudden have scored 110+ 3 times in their last 4 games, winning all 3 of those contests in straight-up fashion.
Bad for the books. The Falcons game, which was bet up to 5 on Thursday night. Atlanta, no problems with Tampa Bay. Julio Jones, another big game. And sharp money came in on the under. I couldn't figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, the Sharps didn't have a real good NFL night on Thursday because, of course, what were they doing? They were picking off the Tampa +5 when they popped up, as Sharps are inclined to do, and they were betting the under last night. Of course, the MO for the Thursday night games, the long-term trends say the divisional matchups stay under. So when you have this long-term sample size, doesn't matter the teams. The Sharps are not the broader factors in the betting markets. The professional bettors, they're not handicapping the game. They're handicapping situations. They're looking at long-term sample sizes and long-term angles. In this instance, the long-term angle was wrong. It was something we talked about in the preview with Atlanta's defense problematic, Tampa Bay's defense problematic. The game flies over the total, and of course, it doesn't happen very often this time of year. Frankly, the books put up a bad number, point spread-wise, in this game. Bettors corrected their mistake. And of course, when bettors correct the bookie's mistake, that means they put money in their own pockets.
All right, market moves in the NFL. Here we go. Money on the Cowboys and Browns over up to 48.5. Why not? The Browns have been an over machine.
No, they sure have. 6-1 to the over the last 7 ball games. They have an awful defense, a banged up secondary, very little pass rush. And whoever's been that quarterback's been chucking it downfield. And Terrell Pryor, quietly, very quietly, becoming one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. Browns taking over money every week now. The market's finally starting to catch up.
Pros and the Joes are on the Saints here on the road against San Francisco, Teddy. How high does this number go?
Yeah, I mean, opened in the 3.5 range. Now it's up to 4.5. It looks like it's going to go higher. When you have pros and Joes on the same side, you don't get the take back that you do. Maybe at 6 you start to see some take back, but between 4.5 and 6, there's nothing stopping this number. Of course, the difference between the pros and the Joes, the Sharps, they already laid 3.5. They already laid 4. The Joes are going to wait until Sunday and lay 5.5 and 6, and then pray it doesn't matter.
Over money with the Colts and the Packers up to 54.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Colts are 6-2 to the over, and that hideous defense is facing Aaron Rodgers, a resurgent Aaron Rodgers this week. But we know luck can chuck, and of course, for Green Bay, James Starks returns. The Packers have played the last couple of weeks without an actual NFL running back. You know, Rodgers had more rushing yards than all of his teammates combined at Atlanta. A little bit of running game not going to hurt an over wager. Certainly not against that Indy defense.
And one more. It's a great game. Sunday Night Football. It's the first time since 2002 the Broncos are playing the Raiders, and both teams are above 500. Raider money. How about this? Denver was minus 2.5. Now Denver's plus 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, the minus 2.5 for the Broncos, that was a very early number, was not a lot widely available, but Pick'em was widely available here, and it's been all Oakland money. And there is something here on the Broncos injury report. You know, the center, Paredes, is out. Aqib Talib, very questionable this week. Running back Devontae Booker, however, now probable. C.J. Anderson went on IR last week, so Booker's status does matter. But this is the first real sign of betting market respect for Oakland all year. We haven't seen it yet. And, of course, remember when that happened for Philly? When they got their first respect? They were at Detroit after the bye. They lost the game straight up.
Yes, big news earlier in the week we couldn't get to because of the World Series and the great finish as the Cubs win the World Series. Norv Turner out as OC in Minnesota. My contacts tell me there were some big problems as Turner and Zimmer were clashing heads. Here's Turner. He hinted at problems. Quote, I think we have different views on where the offense was going. Tremendous respect for Mike Zimmer, our coaching staff, and our players. And at this time, I think it's in the best interest of the team to step down. How about that quote?
Yeah, and then Zimmer, of course, denies it. And Zimmer, I mean, I imagine the guy's a son of a bitch. You know, he seems like he'd be a real tough guy to play for and a real tough guy to work for. But his teams have been winning, and there's something to be said for that. And certainly they've been covering point spreads. Zimmer's quote, there was no thought of making any kind of change. I wasn't going to make a change. I had no indication that this was going on. I would say that since Norv has been there, I've given him almost 100% total free will in everything they've done offensively. Obviously, I'll come in and make suggestions, but there really has never been a time that I have demanded anything from there.
Well, Norv's telling the truth on that one. Norv is, what do you think of now Bradford reunited with Shermer, who's the OC?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good thing. I mean, Shermer, remember, Shermer was the guy who wanted L.A. to get L.A. when they were still the St. Louis Rams to draft Bradford. He was his offense coordinator in St. Louis. He was his offense coordinator in Philly. Bradford, quote, with Pat being the one who kind of brought me up in this league and coached me as a rookie, I think I've learned a lot about the game from Pat. Obviously, I think he had a vision early on in my career. Obviously, to reunite with him last year, I've always enjoyed working with Pat. I look forward to this opportunity as well. Norv Turner, solid coordinator, lifetime. Hey, you know, we can't argue. We don't like him as a head coach, but he certainly can call plays. But for Minnesota, a little kick in the butt, a little stir it up, I don't think it's going to hurt things, especially with an experienced guy like Shermer taking over.
Up next, big game breakdown. One game in the association and 3 monster matchups in the NFL. That's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Time for big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. One game in the association on ESPN. Homecoming. Knicks take on the Bulls. Bulls 6.5, 210 the total. They're going to be tanked up and ready to go in Chicago. They had the parade this morning with the Cubbies. As they finally win, do they boo Rose and Noah? Or do they appreciate them and welcome them back? Back to Chicago for Rose, 8 years in the league, 7 with the Bulls. Missed the 1 year with injury. Noah, 9 years with the Bulls. What do you think of this New York outfit, Teddy?
Okay, let's start with this. I don't think they're going to boo Rose and Noah. No way. I mean, Noah played his ass off for that team. You know, year after year after year. Rose took him to the playoffs. He's a hometown hero. I don't think that anyone in Chicago would, shouldn't say anyone. Of course there's someone that will. But I don't think we're going to hear even a smattering of boos. I think those guys get cheered going back to the United Center. But, you know, we're talking about two guys that have never played with anyone else but the Chicago Bulls prior to this season with the Knicks. And I'm not convinced either guy has any game left. I really don't. I mean, Rose is averaging, 31 minutes a game. The scoring's there, 16.3 on 44% shooting. That's his best, by the way, since 2010. But he's dishing 2.5 assists per game. That's not going to get it done. At least he's getting in the basket. Only 4 of his 65 shot attempts have come from beyond the arc. Noah, again, this is a guy who's played hard, played through injuries, but he's only getting about 22 minutes a game so far with the Knicks. He's shooting 33% from the field. He's not a shooter, you know, but that he's only averaging 1 shot for every 10 minutes of court time. He's not hitting free throws. You know, he's doing what he does, providing a little bit of rebounding, a little bit of low post defense for a team that has lacked in both of those departments in recent years. But Joakim Noah as a difference maker at this stage in his career, or Derrick Rose a difference maker, neither guy's there.
Well, big opportunity for Rondo. You get the fans to accept him, and also, ego boost too, as he can try to beat Rose. He's getting it done with 7.8 assists in 29 minutes. Good ratio, can't shoot. We knew that going in. Butler and Wade meshing well. Two pros that want to win, and Hoiberg's doing a good job handling the minutes.
Yeah, he has, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people didn't realize. Again, when I talked about the Bulls earlier in the week, saying there wasn't a wise guy in town that I talked to that liked this team going in, and I'm like, there's got to be some value with them if none of the Sharps are going to be looking at Chicago. The depth of this squad, Mirotic off the bench are averaging 14 points per game. Doug McDermott averaging 13 points per game. The key guys are staying fresh. And I don't know why everyone hates it because, as you mentioned, Butler only had 31 minutes so far. No one else even at 30 minutes per game for Chicago. So the depth is there. And why do people dislike Rajon Rondo's game? All he's done is win. Literally, all he's done, maybe he's a little bit petulant. You know what? The guy has a ring on his finger for a reason. I'm a Rondo fan, and I know everyone seems to hate the guy. I don't understand why.
They hate him in Dallas. They did not like him in Sacramento either. Then Dallas, they told him to beat it, get lost for the playoffs. That's part of the legacy, my friend. All right. Yep, time for the NFL. Great matchup here. Eagles hit the road to take on the G-Men. Giants, 2.5. 43 the total. Football cappers have to get used to Wentz having his thumbs up, even when things aren't going well. Last 3 weeks, Eagles yards per play, 5, 4.4, 4.1. NFL average is 5.5. I know the wide receivers can't catch a cold, Teddy, but I am sick and tired of the conservative offense not taking shots down the field and the passes behind the line of scrimmage that got them beat in the second half against Dallas because they kept losing yards on that play.
Well, let's start with the wide receiver issue because, look, there's been 150 completions. Aguilar is the only wide receiver that has caught more than 10 passes. He's got 21 for 216. He's dumping off to the backs. The top two are the running backs, Matthews and Sproles, which is fairly typical of a young quarterback. You're going to check down a lot. You like a good tight end. Philly doesn't have that necessarily. But the good for Wentz, only 3 interceptions in 228 attempts. He is not making mistakes. The bad, of course, is that he's not getting the ball downfield at all. Even with a high rate of completions. He's at 65.8%. The league, only 63.3%. Even with that high rate, Wentz below average in yards per play. Some of that is conservative offense, but honestly, Pauly, I think some of it is a group of wide receivers that isn't beating coverage down the field and leaving Wentz with very limited options.
And it's time to give Sproles more carries as well. Matthews in the doghouse, can't stop fumbling, get Sproles more involved. I think Peterson will do that coming up on Sunday. You mentioned the wide receivers and the issues there. The Giants don't have that problem. Look at Beckham, Shepard, and Cruz. Catches, Beckham 40 for 630, Shepard 31 for 334, Cruz 24 for 331. 3 wide receivers that have caught more passes than any Philly wide receiver.
Yeah. But the offense, even with that, 3 wide receivers having caught more passes than any Eagles receiver. The offense has not been maximized yet, not even close. And remember, OBJ hasn't been 100%. Now he's had the bye week to get healthy. Here's what Victor Cruz said about Odell Beckham Jr. playing through the pain. Quote, just looking at him out there, you could see how uncomfortable he was. We all could see it. Those hip pointers are painful. Reaching for things across your body is hard, let alone going out there full speed down the field, jumping, running, catching the football. So for him not to just go out there and play, but make an impact on the game, it was a big statement about what he means to the team and about what this team means to him moving forward. Looks like OBJ may not be 110%, but pretty close to 100% for this one.
Man, every week on SportsBit, we discuss the lack of a running game for the Giants. Horrible running game.
Well, yeah, I mean, through 7 games, they still don't have any individual back that has reached 150 yards for the season. But the Giants, they're a good team that has made a ton of mistakes and really hasn't lived up to their talent on either side of the football. I think the Giants can be better than what we saw over the first half of the season. The Eagles, I look at them as a mediocre team. They've done a remarkable job of taking advantage of other teams' mistakes. The defense has made plays almost every week. The special teams has made plays on a consistent basis. But in this spread range, can you count on that? I don't know if you can, especially against a Giants team that I don't know if they were fat and happy coming off that bye after how poorly they played in London.
Up next, Steelers and the Ravens. Who's playing quarterback for Pittsburgh? Plus the big Sunday night showdown. First place on the line, the Broncos and the Raiders. Coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Big game breakdown continues. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Steelers hit the road to take on the Ravens. Without Roethlisberger, the Steelers are 1-7 against the Ravens since 2004. No look-ahead line, no line on this one. What are your numbers, Teddy? Depends on who's under center for the Steelers in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the big market mystery all week has been about Big Ben's status. Although he took part in every practice this week for at least some of the practice. He was a partial participant. But really, the books have been very reluctant to post a number here. My number, with Landry Jones, Baltimore -1. With Big Ben, Pittsburgh -3. Again, those are my numbers. I have no idea what the markets are going to do when these numbers open up. At some point, I think they're going to open up today.
How about this news? Very important for the Steelers. Wheaton and Gilbert again practicing with the offense. Cam Hayward back on defense. Ramon Foster on Gilbert. Gil is, I think, one of the best tackles in this game. His footwork, his power the last few years playing against Doomerville and Suggs. He staked his claim on being a good tackle. I love having him out there. He's a vet, knows how to be physical too. Gil's a guy you can't replace in a sense of his experience. The way he mans that right side, very athletic, and to add to that with his size and speed, I'd much rather have him in there. That's no knock on anybody. End quote. Feeling good, getting him back here. But the right time.
Well, that's just it. I mean, the markets are only going to react to Big Ben.
Yeah.
They're not going to react to Marcus Gilbert. They're not going to react to Marcus Wheaton. And they're certainly not going to react to Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward's return is as big as anyone this side of Big Ben. Here's Stephen Tuitt on having Hayward back next to him up front. I talked about how often he was double-teamed while Hayward was out. Quote, when one of us is out, they're going to pressure the other guy. You saw what we can do. To get in an offense's head, knowing they can go one way or the other, really gets them off their psyche. So here's a situation where in the trenches, and that's where you make your money in the NFL, so help me, the offensive and defensive lines, the Steelers are getting healthy. That matters.
A ton of issues for the Ravens on offense. They get the bye week with Morningweg taking over as the OC when they let Tressman go. Also trying to get healthy with the struggling offensive line. 26th in rushing yards, 25th in yards per carry, and Flacco's been hit 45 times.
Yeah, real rough. I mean, this is the longest ever losing streak for John Harbaugh. He's never lost 4 in a row before, although by 19 combined points. But we're talking about a team that entered the bye week number 26 in the NFL in rushing yards, number 25 in yards per carry. And you talked about the Flacco problems. But now, what happens? They get Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle, and Marshall Yanda, their right guard back. And Yanda's a 5-time Pro Bowler. Here's his quote. I feel it's on us every week. I feel like it starts up front. Obviously, in the NFL, it starts up front winning the line of scrimmage. And we do that, we usually have success. When we don't do that and don't protect the quarterback, things usually don't go our way, especially in our division. We understand that for sure. So while Pittsburgh's getting healthy in the trenches, Baltimore's getting healthy in the trenches. So it is worth noting, the last Ravens spread cover against the opening number, week 1, when they won 13-7 over Buffalo. They were -3, and you know what? They were the wrong side in that game. They were lucky to cash. That's it. It's been a real rough season for Ravens back.
Not a ringing endorsement, but Landry Jones wasn't that bad against the Patriots. He was okay.
No, yeah. The only thing he struggled when he got inside the 20. And, that's one of the issues you're going to have with a younger quarterback is can you get touchdowns, not field goals? But, I mean, the nature of this series, Pauly, 3.5's worth everything. A lot of recent Steeler-Ravens games have been decided by exactly 3 points or less.
Excellent point there. All right, last game. LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. The huge matchup Sunday night. The Broncos hit the road to take on the Raiders. Raiders now 1.5, 44 the total. They love Del Rio in Oakland. The players love him. He's changed the football culture. He goes for 2 and the win to open up at New Orleans. He gets it done. They stay in an upscale hotel in Sarasota between the Jacksonville and Tampa Bay games instead of going back. He goes for the win from midfield in overtime on 4th down, and they have the walk-off against Roberts. Then he calls for a touchdown pass to Donald Penn. The first time the Raiders get near the goal line, Penn was upset because he was cut 2 years ago in Tampa. They love this guy.
Yeah, when coaches do things for players, the players buy in. And these are all things that Del Rio has done this year to make that team love him. How about the quote from Donald Penn? I wanted this one so bad. I thought I was going to retire as a Buccaneer. But stuff happens. It really hurt me when I got cut. God works in mysterious ways. Well, in this instance, God worked in the form of Jack Del Rio, giving Penn a play by the goal line against his former team and allowing him to get a measure of quote-unquote revenge. But it also helps. Yeah, everyone's buying in Oakland this year. No question. It also helps to have one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. Derek Carr, 17 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, a QB rating of 100.9, and of course, that wide receiver tandem, Cooper and Crabtree, combined 99 catches for more than 1,300 yards, Pauly. Is that the best 1-2 receiving core in the NFL?
No doubt.
Might be.
Yep.
Might be.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Now, step up in class. Raiders haven't beat a team with a winning record. Still the same issues. The penalties. They lead the league. They set the record last week. They still find ways to win. The defense has been horrible. Now, the last couple of weeks, better job, but it was Jacksonville and Tampa, and they also faced Kansas City and Tennessee. So it's not in Denver's class. But if they do this against good teams, the bad defensive play, the penalties, they are going to get beat. And remember that no-show they had on offense at home against the Chiefs. And that's been remember, this team's 5-0 on the road. They can't win at home.
Well, I mean, the Raiders have basically played only 2 above-average defenses all year. You talk about the last 2 weeks, Tampa and Jacksonville, bottom-tier defenses. The only 2 above-average defenses they played, and neither one's in Denver's class. They faced Kansas City and Tennessee. They scored 17 against Tennessee and 10 against Kansas City. So, that's an issue. And you talk about Oakland dead last in the NFL, most penalties allowed. They've got 86. No other team in the league has more than 66. So it's not even close, the differential between Oakland and everybody else when it comes to those mental and physical miscues.
Yes. Now, the Denver, they got to get their running game going. We know Anderson's on IR. Booker's been okay in there, but the fumbling issues. And then he goes out, and Bibbs comes in, and he fumbles right away. They're only getting 104.8 yards per game on the ground. Only the second road game for Simeon since September. He was great at Cincinnati, but he struggled at San Diego, that short week game when they didn't have Kubiak.
Yeah, he sure did. And I mean, again, Devontae Booker is averaging, 3.4 yards a carry. He's fumbled 3 times in his last 70 rush attempts, and the Broncos lost 2 of those. Bibbs came in, fumbled in his first carry last week. This team has a problem right now on the ground, and if Simeon can't throw the football downfield, and again, that 1 week at San Diego, I'm willing to give him a mulligan.
Yeah, I will, yes.
But if he struggles here, this is most assuredly a red flag moving forward for a quarterback who looked pretty good coming out of the gate, but has not looked nearly as good in recent weeks.
All right, let's get back on track. Money time, play of the day. Back to the Eagles and the Giants. Betting number 456. The Giants -2.5. Eli can reach back and fire down the field, something Wentz can't do because he doesn't have the weapons. Not a problem with Eli. And I still think the Eagles are going to be, they let one get away big time Sunday night. They should have been in first place. You can't blow a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and lose like they did. Now you got the Huff distraction as well. But the Giants get it done at home. That's the play of the day, betting number 456. Fun week of shows. We always look forward to Mondays. We can't wait to run everything down. A crazy weekend in college and the NFL. We'll talk to you then. Good luck out there on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.